Shalom Israel, and welcome to Hebrew Chronicles Publishing. On today's segment, we're going to be going over why you need an artist, okay? Make sure you get an artist. Don't be cheap when it comes to an artist, okay? The reason why I say that there's two things that you want to actually invest, two places I would say, that you want to invest your money in, maximize it. One, editing. Two, an artist. Get an artist, all right? And the reason why I say it's important to get an artist because a lot of people slack when it comes to that department. They focus on a lot of the other essentials. They see a lot of people skyrocket to fame and all of that stuff, like editor, marketing, advertising, and all of that. And it's good to have it in those places. But if you're working on a tight budget, you want to have it in those main two places. You want a good editor or a good edit for your story, and then you want actually a really nice cover. Because Esau says, never judge a book by its cover. But what did God say? A man may be known by his look. Therefore, everything that is about you represents you. So if you want to write a book, let that represent who you are, okay? So don't skip on the front cover. I also have a trick for you guys. I really want to go over this because this is also tying into this segment. And I'm going to be showing you 4 books. And they're all of the 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches. But I want to show you the evolution of it and what it looks like when you don't want to invest in the cover. All right, so here's the first book. Now, I remember writing this book in November. I think I completed it. I completed it in November the 1st. I completed it November 1st, 2018. Okay? That was when I first published the 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches, which is on the 7th. But I finished it that same week. So I finished the book. I completed it, the editorial and all of that stuff, on the 1st, and then I published it through Lulu on the 7th. Okay, so like I said before, this was in November the 7th, 2018. So let me show you the first book. This is actually what the first cover, the 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches. See, it's really bland, no detail whatsoever, you know. And this is what your work looks like to a person that the story itself might be great, but because your book itself represents how you feel about your work, how much detail you put in your work. The average person that is looking for a book to read, their mindset is if the book's cover, if they put a lot of detail and a lot of effort in their cover, I know I'm going to enjoy the story just as much as the front cover. And sometimes the book is bad. The book is extremely hard. But the front cover is what sells the book. But of course, as Israel, we want to make sure that everything that we put out there is going to be for the other people's enjoyment. And it's going to represent your integrity. So you want to make sure that you do the best that you can with all of your work in every department. But like I said before, this is the front cover of what the 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches started out looking like. See the name down here, Gabriel, Adir, Israel. Okay. This is the back. Small print, barcode, and it says right here, www.lulu.com. I know you probably can't see it. See? But this is actually what the first book looked like. It's the spine, 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches, and it has the Lulu logo right here. So yeah, that's who I published. I started out publishing through Lulu. So this is the first one. Okay. Now, once I actually got that book, I think I looked at that cover for about a week or so, and I said, it's not done. I know I can do better than that. So what I did is I started working on a new cover, but at the same time I wasn't willing to invest in getting a professional graphic designer to do my book cover, because I felt like they were going to be too expensive. So I limited myself on that, and I took it upon myself to do it myself. And this is what the second cover looked like. This is the second revision of the 12 tribes and the power of the 7 churches. And if you can look at it, it looks a bit better than the first. It's much thicker than the first as well, as you can see from the spine. And this one, I took away the brown, or the beige brown, and I added a baby sky blue cover with an I don't know what type of blue this is, but it's pretty. I thought it was pretty, you know, as you can see the color of it. It's the sun glare. There it is. Right, so that's what it looked like. This is a really light blue, and I also added these. And how I came up with this cover, I was playing around on Microsoft Word, showing you Microsoft Word can do a lot of dangerous things. And also, as you can tell, the print is a lot bigger and there's more information that I had than on the previous book. But yeah, this is technically what the second revision looked like, and I was super proud of it at the time. And I think that lasted for about 3 weeks. You know how when you publish a book or you write something, you look at it. There's nothing like when you write a book and you actually have the book in your hand. I'm not talking about because I'm not traditional. I don't type on a typewriter, and I don't write on paper. I type it on the computer. So the only time I have satisfaction is when I'm holding them in my hand. That's the only time that I'm actually super proud of my work. So that previous book, that last revision, lasted for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I can do better than this, So what I started doing is looking for an artist, and I stumbled across a guy. I forgot his name, and I want to keep, even if I remembered his name, I wouldn't want to say it anyway. He kind of blew me off. When you're working with Jake, you have to be prepared. It's like a two-edged sword. Israel is the best at everything, but we're the worst when it comes to commitment, unless we've repented. And this was one of the unrepentant brothers. But I met him through his cousin, and me and his cousin were truck drivers. As you can see, I'm in my office right now, in the cab. But anyway, we were discussing, and I told him I needed an artist. And he told me, my cousin draws. And I said, well, let me see some of his work. And I looked at some of his work, and all of the art that he had were all black people. So I said, okay, I think I can deal with this guy, And I talked to him for about 10-15 minutes over the phone. He gave me a couple of sketches, and he asked me about a specific topic. And then I gave him certain things that I thought that just to test his art style. And I was happy with it. And this is what I came up with when I completed everything. And this was the first official finished 12 Tribes and the Power of the 7 Churches. This was the first book, the first of its kind. I enjoyed it. When this book came out, I was super happy. It was a lot smaller than I thought it would be, because of the font that they used. But it was amazing art. I was proud of the brother's work. He didn't start out being expensive, but his price, of course, increased. And I didn't have a problem with it because I could afford it. But at the same time, he wasn't able to keep up with my projects. And that's pretty much where we started falling off, because I had high expectations and I was trying to get things out. And like I was saying before in a video that I posted up on Facebook, that we need to flood the media, flood all social media and everything that we can with Israelite art, because we need to see our own images. Kids look up when they go to school, they see everybody else. When they turn on TV, they see everybody else. The only time that we actually get to enjoy our own image is when we open up the Bible. So I said, okay, it's going to take more than that, because kids are motivated by their esteem, and the only way to, like say for instance myself, before I actually started reading the scriptures, I used to visualize everyone else. I even wrote a story called Abraham Then Helsing when I was in the world, and I thought it was one of the best stories I've ever written, but it was about an Edomite. It was not about my people. So you can tell where my mind was at that point. So when I started seeing, because I'm a writer, it was easier for me to actually pretty much graph the images on what I'm reading in the scriptures. And I thought that when I started reading that and I was taught these things, I said, no more. I'm going to stick with this. And like I was saying before, the artist himself could not keep up with the images that I wanted to push out. Therefore, he ended up burning himself out, probably left. He still owes me money, but it's okay. I forget a brother. I've never been a type of person that was about money. That's the reason why I took almost everything that I had. I even slept in my truck for 6 months, because I wanted to dedicate myself to my work, okay? Not only to my studies, but also to my business that I was trying to develop. And here I am, Hebrew Chronicles Publishing. Official. So before I show you the last one, of course, you've probably seen it. I post it up on my Facebook all the time. A lot of brothers and sisters share it, and I'm very proud, and I appreciate you brothers and sisters that support my work. But once I actually lost my previous artist, I was like, what am I going to do now? I had such a high expectations on doing, and I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to put out there. But now I was left with no artist. So I'm talking to one of the brothers, from the faith, and he told me, he was like, hey, why don't you go on Instagram and start, looking for different artists and different, social media networks, because a lot of people, they post their stuff up online. And I'm so used to trying to catch artists, from, people that But this brother found me a good artist. And at first time I was skeptic, because I was like, okay, his art style is more new age anime style. And not that it wasn't good at that time. When I first looked at it, I was like, it's too cartoony. It looks, well, not cartoony, but it's like that new. If you're an anime fan, you will understand the difference between new anime, like modern day anime, and then you have, the classic anime, such as your Gundam, your Gundam Wing, and Fist of the North Star. Even, well, I wouldn't say Dragon Ball Z, because there was not a lot of detail in that, but animals that was made back in the early 90s, like 92, 93, 94. Everything else started being trash. And then now the new anime drawing art style is really like, everything looks like Bleach. It's like either Bleach or Naruto. Naruto now everything now is copied. But I told him, I said, okay, I'm gonna try his art style out. I said, okay, can you draw a knight? Because I told him to redraw the brother that's on here, which is Shinzero. He's the main protagonist of the story, and his name was changed from Shinzero to Ariel. So I told him, I say, I need you to redraw this character, but instead of making his hair black, I want you to make his hair white and his eyes glow, because I was reading Revelation chapter 1, and that's when Christ, showed himself, his image. And I said, that's what I want as a representation of what a prophet is when he excels to a higher estate, when he powers up. Kind of like when you watch Dragon Ball Z, when a Saiyan goes Super Saiyan, his hair changes, his eye color changes, he increases in power, speed, stamina, all that stuff, but more in a prospect of being a prophet. but at the same time with physical prowess. And when you just read the book, you'll see what I mean. So when he designed that, I told him, I say, okay, you know how in Dragon Ball Z, I want him to look similar to that, but I want the aura to be around him. I want it to be white because it's going to represent spiritual power, not just energy. I mean spiritual power. It's so much now his body actually has electricity coming around it and a white aura around his body. And he did it, and it looked fantastic. Then I say, okay, I need you to draw the image in my head. It's going to be a armor, and of course I got it from, I believe it's Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. I believe, of course, you always got to have the Holy Scriptures because that's where all of the ideas come from. So Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Ephesians 6 and 11. That's what inspired this. That's what inspired this. This was the newest one, and I was so proud of this book because the way it looks, it shows everything that I had up here. The artist was actually able to do a better job than the previous one. Everything that I thought that I wanted before, this guy exceeded. Yeah, his name's Mike Tony. So Mike Tony Design. So whenever you get a chance, you can go on Instagram and just type in Mike Tony, and all of his art will pop up. That he told me that's his biography. I was looking for his biography, something that shows like his all of his work. But he said, because that was mainly for his business, so he uses Instagram to show his art. That book right there, that was it. So these are the evolutions of the 12 tribes. And like I said before, the reason why it's important for you to invest in your artists is because the images is what's going to sell. The images is what's going to sell your book. Think of white Jesus, the most popular image on the planet. Of course, we're going to crush that. And that's what one of my ideas, that's what my plan is. We have to reestablish our own images and our beauty. Okay? So make sure that you visit www.hebrewchronicles.com and also check out my new Patreon. And I'm going to be making a video on that very soon. It's very new. I actually call it filler, but it's enjoyable filler. Because when I watch anime, I hate fillers. If it doesn't line up with what's in the manga, it kind of pisses me off. But I wrote really good filler. And the reason why I say I did a good job is because other people said that too. The scriptures say, I believe it's Proverbs 27 and verse 2, to let other people glorify your work.